What's up, guys? It's JZNES back again with another video. Today we've got Dragon Quest Monsters Joker #1 there to play. Now you're probably saying, hey JZ, what the fuck happened to Dragon Quest Monsters? You talked about that like 3 years ago or something in your fucking Backlog videos, and you kept talking about it. You kept saying you were gonna play it, and you didn't play it, and I'm like, fuck yeah, because that game was just... You okay there? Okay, he's got it. That game was just way too tedious, and it didn't have all of the good aspects of this new game, or of its much better sequel, Dragon Quest Monsters 2, or Dragon Warrior Monsters as it was back then, 2, Terra edition, of course, because you're not going to play as fucking Kobe. Apparently that was the more popular one, though. I don't know, fucking... plays as Kobe. You gotta play as Terra. She's got the cool uniform. He's like a farm boy or whatever. Fuck it. I don't know. They're brother and sister. Who cares? Anyway, so, yeah. So, I really love the second Dragon Quest Monsters game because I grew up with that. I knew a guy who had the first one back in the day, and I tried playing it like a few years ago, and it's just way too tedious, and the breeding system and the fusing system, or they're not a fusing system. This game has a fusing system, but the breeding system in this game is just not ideal. It's really unpleasant to deal with because you have to, like, obviously you need a female and a male to breed, so it was always just a trick of finding the right gender or whatever. It was a bunch of bullshit, I tell you. Why is there like a long ass thing at the end of the... Oh my god, is this like the Tomba soundtrack? What the fuck? What's all that about? Anyway, so, basically, yeah, so, what was I even fucking talking about? Oh, the breeding system sucked in that game, so you can't get great monsters out of it. You have to, like, basically scout them out and whatever. And they still had the fucking meat system where you'd have to, like, give them meat, and it's like, maybe we'll join you. And to the new game's credit, Dragon Quest Monsters 2 had that as well. So I can't necessarily say that... That's the fucked up thing, man. Spoiling my opinion a little bit, but god damn, this might be a better game than Dragon Quest Monsters 2, which is so much harder for me to say, because that's the game I have the connection with. But in terms of gameplay and mechanics and whatnot, this is definitely the better game, unfortunately. This definitely feels like an old school Game Boy Color game, you know, so it feels more in line with Pokemon and whatnot, and that's what I really appreciated about it. But this game has elements of Pokemon and, like, Persona, and, like, because it has the fusing system, kind of like from Persona. The only thing that I feel like the game was missing is some kind of compendium like in Persona where you can rebuy monsters that you've already added to your compendium, so that you can fuse again, so you don't have to like remake those monsters by going out and finding a bunch of that same monster that you found before and scouting it and all that stuff. That's the only thing. That's the one thing I would do to improve this game, would to be add a compendium to the game like the Persona series has. But other than that, the game is, like, pretty rock solid in terms of, like, flaws or whatever. Because I like almost everything else about it, and I'll get into that in a second here. But, Dragon Quest Monsters 2 was the one that I definitely grew up with, and I have a lot of really good memories with that game, and I beat it more recently in, like, shit, like 20... It's not recent anymore, like 2013 or 14 or something. Long time ago, actually. Well, it's like 6 years ago, but it feels like it's basically a different lifetime for me, in a sense. But yeah, so yeah, so I finished that one finally back then. I mean, I got really close. I think I got to the final boss as a kid or something. I just like never got past it or whatever, but I did that, and then and I got that here. My original box and manual and stuff are in there. I think my manual's over there actually, but the original box anyway. And it's a nice protective case here because it's a nice box, and I actually don't know how I kept it so nice all these years, but love this game, love this box. It's what a great box, you know. Here, I'm gonna set it over here so we can block out Dragon Quest Monsters because nobody needs to see that. Dragon Warrior Monsters. I got the second game, and I've got a Japanese version of the second Dragon Quest Monsters game, or Dragon Warrior Monsters game. There, and got these little figurines. Oh fuck, got these little figurines. Oh, shit, wrong thing. Figurines of Kobe and Terra there. So pretty good stuff. So it's a series I have a lot of attachment to. I originally played the this copy actually of Dragon Quest Monsters Joker back in the day in like high school. I think I calculated it out to be something like 10 or some change years ago. You know, when I was in high school, there is when I must have gotten the game. Sorry, bud, didn't mean to set you off there. When I got the game or whatever, around when it came out, I'm sure it was probably a little bit after it came out for sure, but I remember getting it because I really liked the Dragon Quest Monsters games from back in the day. Because I remember Monsters 2 was not out at the time yet. I don't know how much later that came out, but I felt like that was a later release in the life cycle. I kind of remember when this came out, but I hadn't finished the first one, so I didn't get it until like way later on. Ironically enough, I have the guide for this one and not for the first one. I actually have every guide, not come to think of it, for the American ones anyway, other than the Dragon Quest Monsters Joker guide that we're reviewing today. So yeah. But I initially played this game here, Dragon Quest Monsters Joker, in high school, and I remember back then thinking, oh yeah, this is pretty good. It's not anything special or whatever. I didn't really have any. I didn't really see the nuances and like the kind of the beauty of what they were doing with the game, but I just kind of thought it was an average sort of game. And I thought there was way too much grinding and this and that, and there is a lot of grinding, but there's a reason. I feel like this is an intentional thing, and I feel like there's a reason for this, you know. So, and I'm gonna get into that here in a minute, but and I had my save file from back then that I deleted to just start the game over. I had like one of those Argon lizards and like a few other like lower tier things. But I remember looking into it for just a second, like, oh, should I just start up from here again? And I'm like, nah, I'm just gonna start over that way. I remember what's going on. I'm glad I did, because then I got the full experience out of the game. So I still have my save file from back in the day and stuff. I had a saber cat. That was the other one. That was the other cool thing that I had. I remember that. So that's pretty cool. But yeah, I never really got that far into it. I got like maybe, actually it's pretty far into it actually. I had most of the Darkonium crystals or whatever, which are this like, it's a collectible in this game that you kind of have to progress the story or whatever. There's like 8 of them or something. And you kind of get them every time you go through a story bit or whatever. And sometimes they're just kind of somewhere on the island or whatever. But I feel like you kind of just run into them whenever you're encountering the story stuff, or really just encountering the bosses. And like right before you get to a boss, you get like a Darkonium crystal and like a different thing, typically. So yeah. Let's talk about the music quick, because the soundtrack's gonna run out really fast, I think, because it looked like there wasn't that many tracks. But it's actually mostly remade music from good old Dragon Quest Monsters, not Joker, Dragon Quest Monsters series here. I don't remember if they were all in the first one or whatever, but definitely from the second one at least. I know that. So it's really familiar music, and it's really nice to hear it remade into more full orchestral sort of sounding tunes. But it kind of sucks, because also the other thing is that, and maybe I'm just stupid and I didn't really find it, but I can find the fucking Dragon Quest or Dragon Quest or Warrior whatever Monsters 1 soundtrack. But this fucking number 2 soundtrack is not on YouTube, as far as I can tell, which is bullshit. Because It's awesome. Somebody needs to fix that, alright? It's like, seriously, like every other fucking Dragon Quest game on there and every other game I've ever looked up the soundtrack for, it's always been there, but not this one. It's like one of my fucking favorite games, too. What the hell? Like, get this soundtrack up there, people. So, yeah. So that sucks. Anyway, so yeah, it's redone tracks of some of the older tracks. A lot of the tracks are, so that's pretty cool. And I really appreciate hearing all that music again, so that's awesome. Even like the battle themes and like the boss theme and the stuff, I'm pretty sure is just from Dragon Warrior Monsters 2, which is awesome. Like I love all that stuff, so it's great. Glad to hear it all back. But anyway, so, and I guess aesthetically, the game, really, yeah, this is also like the dungeon theme from Dragon Quest Monsters 2 there. The the aesthetic of the game is actually pretty impressive, I would say, for the DS. It's like fully 3D, like polygons and whatnot. And it looks pretty nice, and the camera control is like kind of like Final Fantasy VII, where you use the shoulder buttons to rotate around yourself, but it actually works pretty well, and you don't even necessarily even need to rotate around yourself all the time. It actually just really works fucking pretty good, especially just once you're used to it. And the most impressive thing about the fucking visuals is that the monsters are on the overworld. This is probably like the first Dragon Quest game to actually fucking do that. This is way before Dragon Quest 9. This is like 2005 or 6 or some shit. Like Dragon Quest 9 didn't come out until like 2009 or 10 or something. It's like way later on for them to do that. Like holy shit, right? And yeah, because like even 8 didn't have them on the overworld until the 3DS version. 9 did, and then like 11 and stuff did, but that's way later on. This might be the first Dragon Quest game to have the monsters on the overworld, which is just like insane. Like you could see all the monsters that you're gonna encounter. And there's this like whistle function too, where you can whistle into battle, and that sometimes calls in rare monsters too, like the metal slimes. Like there's this area like really late in the game where it's like the final dungeon, and if you stand in the right spot, you can use that whistle function to just kind of cycle through the battles, and then eventually you'll get liquid metal slimes, which is how I kind of grinded at the end of the game, which is pretty cool. I was just waiting for those critical hits, and it was such a good feeling whenever I'd get those fucking critical hits. But the better feeling was, and I did it twice, my team took down liquid metal slimes, which have 10 HP, and you barely ever, if even, do 1 HP to it. They took down, naturally, twice, liquid metal slimes, which are worth like 10,000 experience, which is crazy. That's like almost if not always a level up, which is pretty awesome. So that was really cool. We took them down naturally twice, and then we got lots of critical hits too to do that, and that was always a good feeling. I'd always like, yeah, fucking critical hit! I'd just be like fucking freaking out every time I kill a liquid metal slime, which is amazing, you know. There's actually a part earlier on too where you can get metal slimes kind of tuned into the battle, but they're not as hard to take down. You just 3 hits with them and they're dead, but 10 hits is a lot to do, especially when you're not hitting a lot of the time, or it's not that you're not hitting, you're just doing 0 damage most of the time. And critical hits aren't that common, so, but I certainly got my fair share of them against those liquid metal slimes, and so I was grateful for that. But yeah, so anyway, what was I talking about before that? Like, yeah, it's just impressive that they're all on the overworld, the monsters or whatever. I think that's incredible, you know, especially for the time. Like, it's just like technologically, it's kind of a crazy cool game for the DS there, and even the 3DS, the DS, and this one's on DS as well. But I'm just saying, like, yeah, this the game that we're reviewing right now, Dragon Quest Monsters Joker, did it first, man. That's crazy. It's innovative. It's innovation right there. You know, that's crazy. But in terms of gameplay, it's basically very similar to, you know, any other turn-based RPG. You get it's really similar to the old Dragon Quest Monsters games, except you actually have like 3D looking battles, kind of like in the newer games like 8 and stuff. So where you're gonna see your characters, and the camera will like spin around dynamically to like, look at the enemies and stuff too, and it'll always show your character doing the thing. It's not like a static screen like it was kind of, not that there was static, but it was like they have animations, but it's just like a screen where you're seeing the enemies and you don't get to see your monsters. That's kind of cheap, right? But I know the Game Boy Color can only do that instead of this, but like damn, it's so much cooler to see your monsters there, and see them do all their cool animations and whatnot. Like my like final team was, I had one of those like big like long serpent dragons, like the dragon in Dragon Quest 8 when you have to like go and get the mirror. He has that flash move that you have to like get the mirror recharged with. It's like that kind of dragon, like a sea serpent kind of dragon. I had a big one of those guys, was one of them, and I named him Lodo because dragon, so Dragon Quest, original Dragon Quest. And then I had a like one of those Tyrannosaurus looking guys, but he had like, it's the one with the hammer, not the axe, because the axe is actually a lower tier one. And then at the very end, I made a king slime, a king cure slime. I wanted to make a king slime because he's got this skill set that was like, it had like Omni Slash and like a bunch of healing stuff and whatever. I'm like, oh, that'd be awesome, but only regular king slimes have that, not the cure king slime. And I put all this resources into like building this what I thought was going to be a king slime, but it turned out to be a cure king slime. And I'm like, well, I'm not going to go back on it now, and who cares and whatever. And all the skill sets and whatever, that's the cool thing. So when you're breeding or fusing, in this game is really what it is, when you're fusing monsters, you can see the results, and then also you can see how much of a growth qualifier, there's a little plus whatever on there, so it'll be it'll grow faster basically, because they all start at level 1. Now that sounds like a problem, but it really is not that much of a problem, because leveling in this game is fairly easy, and the levels aren't as important as the rank of the monster, what kind of monster you have, and all of that, and actually their skill set is much more important than the level. I mean, when you start at earlier levels, obviously they're going to have less HP and defense and that kind of stuff, attack and all of that, but it gradually becomes easier, and especially when you have a higher tier monster, which in this game there's a ranking system of like all the way from F tier to S tier. I think there's an X tier too or something like that. It's like above S tier. I never even got to S or any of that. I think I may have had like an A tier one. I'm not even sure, but probably not. I think all of mine were B tier and below. But as you progress through the game, you'll get the higher tier monsters, and the higher tier monsters will fuse for higher tier monsters. So you'll just keep, it's kind of a cycle like that. I even had the option to fuse for a great dragon, like one of the, not even like, like the little dragons. Like I had one of those little, like from Dragon Quest 1 who's guarding the princess, one of those kind of green dragons. And there's the red dragon and all of those. Like I had those like earlier on in the game. Those are like C and D tier rank like monsters. But like I'm talking like the standing tall like Dragovian Trials kind of dragons, like from like fucking Dragon Quest 8 and like 5 and all of those like kind of dragons, like like the post-game dragon fight dragons, in all the other games, those kind of dragons. I had the opportunity to make one of those, and I think it was like A or S tier or something. I just didn't do it because like because I was already really so happy with my skill set. I didn't want to have to train up one of those again. The way I did it was I would always have 2 members that were already like super trained up, and then I'd have the 3rd member like kind of put in. So in that case, my Tyrannosaurus guy named Eon, and my my giant serpent guy named Lodo were the ones training up the Cure Slime, which I named Roy. I don't know why I named him Roy, but I thought, hey, Roy, that's a name. Roy Campbell. I don't know. Fucking... I don't know. I named him Roy. That's what his name is. So, yeah. So, you know, so it helps train him up fast. There's also a substitute system where you can have 3 monsters kind of in your, like, reserves. They're not, like... You can't... It's not like, if your team dies, they'll, like, come back in, like, kind of in Dragon Quest VIII or something, like, with the monster teams or whatever. But, what's cool is that the reserves also get some XP from your battles. So if you want a monster that's a low level to level up relatively fast while you have your good team on the front lines, you know, like if you don't want to put him in there because you think he's going to die a lot, then you can do that. Just put him in the reserves and then substitutes, that is, and then you can just he'll get XP. So that's pretty cool. So that's yeah, like the leveling, the starting from level 1 is not that big of a deal. You would think it would be a big deal on paper, but it really is well implemented into the game, and I think that's so cool. The only problem with the whole fusion system is it needs a compendium, so you can just go in and easily buy monsters, so you can fuse all sorts of monsters. I know that would have kind of broke the game and made it a lot easier, but I think that something like that would have made this game like almost a perfect game, you know, in a sense. And maybe they've added something like that to Dragon Quest Monsters 2, and there was a third one that we never got here or something like that. So, is it over? Is that it? No, they just have like super long gaps at the end of these. We're already only on track 11, so. So yeah, that's cool. Like, it's a really good fusion system. It's, you basically have, like, it gives you, like, there's up to, like, 3 monsters that can be fused from certain combinations. And there is sort of a gender system in the sense that there's a plus and a minus thing. But it wasn't as intrusive as it was before, because every monster before had a gender, and you needed to get the gender that you didn't already have, you know. So it's just like this big pain in the ass. But the plus minus system is just like, they're going to be a plus or they're going to be a minus, and there's only like some really rare items to like switch that or whatever. But that type of monster will always be that, as far as I know. Maybe it was a sort of a gender. It wasn't as intrusive though. It didn't make you go out and like get that and stuff. I don't know. Anyway, so how you get these monsters is also much better. In battle, you have a thing called scouting, which basically what you do is, based on the strength and the levels and all of that of your monsters, in comparison to the monster that you're attempting to scout. And some monsters you can't scout, like boss monsters and stuff. But in comparison, you can... So basically what happens is it's just like a regular turn where they each attack the monster, but there's a little gauge at the top that says like 0 to 100%, and it fills in based on the strength and like, you know, how hard you've attacked them, basically. So like one attack might fill in like 30%, and that's like a really good amount for it to fill in, because that means your other 2 guys will fill in another 30% and another 30%, or maybe just 20% and 10% based on their strengths or whatever. You know, and like at a certain point it's like almost guaranteed that you're gonna get it, but even like the really, really low tier, like I've gotten below 5 before and I still recruited it or something like that. Like, it's pretty crazy. The odds are certainly against you, obviously. You got 3%, you got a 3% chance of recruiting that guy. It's not going to be very good, but it can still happen. So, as far as I know, anyway, pretty sure that happened to me on one of the monsters one time. But yeah, it's just really interesting. So you don't have to keep throwing items at them and buying these expensive like sirloins to up your chances of them like joining you after the battle or whatever. It's just like, no, you scout that monster, and then if you can successfully scout that monster, the battle just ends, and you get that monster, and you choose what to do with it. You put it in storage, you put it on your team. The one other thing with the fusion system is, your monsters have to be level 10 for you to fuse them with other monsters. So, a brand brand new fused monster that's only at level 1 would not be able to be fused. So you have to go out and grind a little bit to get him up to snuff to be back on track, you know. And a lot of the monsters that you scout after like the first 2 islands, there's like 6 or 7 islands in this game, which you can kind of there's a little bit of non-linearity to it, but it's more so just like you kind of go in order, but you can go to like higher tier islands if you really want to. Like early in the game, there's one where you can go to like a C tier island. They'll have like, you know, F through A tier or whatever islands, and F through S tier actually, I think, islands. But yeah, you can go to like a C tier or like D tier island before you're like when you're only supposed to be able to have gone to like an F tier island at that point or something like that. I think it's like a C tier island you can go to. So that's kind of cool. It's just a little like above your punching weight there of what you should be able to handle. But hey, I mean the game gives you that. So then if you could recruit some powerful monsters there, that's pretty cool. But also the cool thing about this game is that you're using all of the Dragon Quest monsters, which are iconic, you know, to me especially. And just seeing them all rendered in like 3D visually is like kind of mind-blowing for the time, you know, like I said, they're all in the overworld, like it's crazy. And just seeing some of this stuff in the comparison to your little trainer guy, who's just a kid, is like, oh my god, like it's fucking cool. And there's this like this dog thing, is he on the cover or whatever? I don't think he is on the cover. That's kind of weird that the dog thing's not on the cover, because he's, like, prominent in the game. Huh. Weird. Anyway, there's, like, this dog thing that's called the Incarnus, which is part of the storyline that you're kind of taking along to these stops, and that's why you're doing, going to all of these islands, other than to get the Darkonium crystals for the scouting, like, arena thing, which isn't even like that big of a part of the game. It's just like kind of a MacGuffin thing. Like it just feels so side to the thing. Like once you finally get to the end, it's so underwhelming because you've like trained yourself so much. It's like that's one thing. It's just that's another little complaint that I would have is I know there's a post game thing where there's like a bigger tournament, but like a more well-rounded tournament in the game, the not post game, the regular game would have been nice since they build it up so much, and that's the whole reason you're doing all of this stuff was the scouting challenge or whatever. Also, it's really weird because the first few islands had these like trainers that you can just kind of randomly find, and they'll have these like really cool teams, but like the rest of the game doesn't have that for some reason. And it's really weird. So imagine like Pokemon trainers or something. And this is like actually a tradition from the first game and the second game where you, mostly the first game though, where you just kind of find random people, and if you talk to them, sometimes they give you something in the first game, and then other times they like battle you, and they'd have their own like really impressive team of monsters or whatever. So yeah, it's like just it's weird. But anyway, they just kind of didn't have them in the later islands. Like I think like the first 3 islands had these random trainers, and then they're just gone. I would have enjoyed something more like Pokemon, where the trainers are just kind of at different parts of the level or like of the overworld or whatever, or maybe even in the dungeons or something. I don't know. Or maybe dungeons would be the one place you don't run into trainers or something to that effect. You know, would have been pretty nice. In terms of just so you could level up faster and whatever, because without that there is a lot of grinding, and you don't necessarily have to. I don't think. I think the idea is that you would build the most top tier monsters available to you at that point, which I tried to do, but also I wasn't gonna keep fusing monsters only to have to train them more. So either way, the whole thing about the game is that you have to grind a bunch anyway. But I want to talk about the grinding here in a minute, and then we'll get to that. And I want to read a thing because I wrote about it, that realization I had before. But yeah, so yeah, I just wish there would have been more random trainers and that kind of thing out there in the overworld to kind of spice it up a bit. Would have been nice. But it's really a minor complaint because fighting all the Dragon Quest monsters is good enough, and it's more exciting because you know that any one of those monsters you could technically scout, even if there's low odds. It's more exciting if you get a low odds, like a high tier kind of monster that you just scouted from the wild, because after the first few islands, they're all going to be way over level 10 anyway. So then when you pick them up in the wild, you can start fusing new stuff with that. And it's just this like endless cycle of awesomeness. It's a nice gameplay loop there, which is pretty cool. And like the dungeons aren't anything like too like crazy. There's this one dungeon where it's kind of crazy. You have to like go to the other side of the island. You have to actually like go all the way around the island through a different island or something. It's pretty insane, but that's like probably the hardest of the dungeons. They're pretty straightforward dungeons, but they're really serviceable. They're really well atmosphere. The atmosphere is always really good. There's all the islands feel different, and they don't feel just like the same thing again and again and again, and that's really cool. Like it's just impressive how aesthetically they fit all of this on this game and made it work all back then. It's like it's really mind-boggling. But so yeah, it's just like a really good, all the gameplay stuff is good. And yeah, I want to read a thing that I wrote. This was maybe when I was like halfway through the game, and I thought it summed up kind of the strengths of the game, the gameplay loop really well. So this is Dragon Quest Monsters Joker Thoughts is the name of this. There's a really interesting dynamic at play here that stands out from other RPGs, being the focus on the grinding and fusing, minimalizing the story and constant adventure aspects, or annoying characters halting your progress is a really refreshing thing. Now, I haven't really talked about it or reviewed it yet, obviously, because about what I'm about to say, but cough cough, Luigi's Mansion 2, cough cough. The whole game of Luigi's Mansion 2, that I've played so far, EGAD will just constantly bombard you. Oh, Luigi, he just calls you every 5 seconds. It's super fucking annoying. So I really appreciate that this game was not as concerned with doing stuff like that. That's kind of why I put that little jab in there. Just thought I'd mention that. Anyway, let's get back to it. The game is about the gameplay first and foremost. It keeps the light story elements brief and concise. There's also a sense of openness in the way that the harder islands can often be tackled out of order, helping the gameplay elements really shine. At first, the synthesis system looks intimidating, but it's actually really straightforward in execution. The higher ranking monsters are the goal, so if you keep fusing recruited monsters, you'll effortlessly until you achieve that, at least on the later islands where everything is already level 10. The level barrier is a bit tedious at first, starting at level 1 with any new monsters sucks, but the game is surprisingly well balanced around this, also almost as if the ranks are the more important elements than the levels, like I was mentioning earlier. So I just think that's really a good system. But you also have to keep a hold of building well balanced monster teams skill wise. Having healing abilities as well as buffs and debuffs is the key to taking more challenges, enemies, and bosses. Taking down the more challenging enemies and bosses. Okay, I think this is done. I don't know. Let's just get it. Fuck it. Let's just go Dragon Quest. Sorry, I'm just trying to get some more music going here. Yeah, so this that was another thing I want to talk about really quickly was the skill system. When you fuse a new monster, you have... Oh, fuck happened? No, I didn't do that. You have the option to kind of carry over a few of its skills from each of the things that you used to fuse it, meaning that the skill points that you get skill points after leveling up. A lot of the earlier levels, you get them like every level, and then later on, when you get to like the 20s and 30s, you get them intermittently every like few levels or so. But these skill points are how you gain abilities. So in a sense, you're actually customizing your monster based on the previous monsters that led up to this monster. It's almost like the Persona system, where you can carry over certain abilities from Personas to make way cooler Personas, because those Personas would have never been able to get those abilities to begin with, but on a whole different level, because there's a whole skill system in each of these skills. So like, for instance, I was talking about that King Slime skill earlier that has Omni Slash and stuff, and whatnot. And there's, I think that's Cleric. Cleric is that skill that has Omni Slash and a bunch of healing spells and stuff. That's like one of the best things, the most top tier ones. So anything that you could, if you get to that King Slime, you have that Cleric thing. Anything you could fuse with that King Slime, if you fuse something with that King Slime, anything above it that what you fused into can have that thing. So that's awesome. And you can keep 3 of each of the skills, and so you can keep recycling these skills and just getting the best skill sets going. The fuck? Okay. We're listening to Dragon Quest 1 soundtrack, by the way. But it's from the Super Nintendo version, so that's odd. I've never heard that before. But yeah. So it's really cool because you keep passing on these skills, and what's awesome is that if you put a bunch of skills into those things by leveling up your guy a lot, those skill points still carry over to the new guy. It's like, that's your leveling system. Levels don't matter anymore because they've gone beyond levels. It's more about the skills that you're carrying over and how high the rank of the monster is. That's what's important. And that's so cool. It's a system beyond levels. Like, that's such a fresh idea for a fucking RPG. Like, I don't even know another RPG that does anything like that. It's crazy, man. It's fucking crazy. That's all I'm saying. So let's get back to the thing. Let's get back to reading thing. I just want to talk about skills really quick. That's awesome. So as long as you pass on these skills, of which some are some skill points retained and cut. Yeah. Okay, so we talked about that. The original game was grind heavy. Talking about Dragon Quest Monsters 1 here, just not Joker Monsters, but Monsters 1. But only to regain levels every time the balance wasn't there to account for it, which is why it ended up being a frustrating slog. And its gender system, yeah, we've talked about that. Okay. It's a pain in the ass because you have to, okay. So the scouting system's good. That's another thing I was talking about. Having no random battles and seeing the monsters is incredibly innovative as well for the limitations of the DS. It guarantees that you find the monster that you want rather than running in circles looking for the rare drop. That is a good point. You don't have to look around for, you have to keep running in circles looking for that monster. I remember this being a problem in the earlier Dragon Quest Monsters games. You can just find that monster because it's on the overworld, so it's either there or it's not, kind of thing. All of these sleek quality of life changes add to the focus of the gameplay and make it a more rewarding and fun experience all around. The grind is incorporated in such a way that it guarantees progress in some fashion. That's also the reason the game is a perfect portable experience. You can get in and get out fast and really sink your teeth in to tackling a dungeon, or just grind for the next skill, or recruit that monster that you were trying to recruit, or just see what crazy stuff you can fuse. So yeah, there's a lot of different things that you can do in the game, and it makes actually for the perfect portable experience, because if you just have like a minute to do something, you can go in and you can just be like, okay, can I grind? Can I grind a little bit? I'm just gonna fight a few guys, or can I fuse a new thing, or what can I fuse with this new guy that I just picked up, or you can go and recruit a monster or something. It's like you could play this game in small doses. Actually, what I was doing was using it as a grind game, basically while I was watching, TV shows and stuff. I would sit here, because I already seen this show before, so it's like I'd sit here and just like, I'd pay attention, of course, to that, but I could also be grinding at the same time. I was actually doing 3 things at once today. I had like a 5-hour grind session today before I kind of finally beat the final boss. But what was cool was I was eating at the same time as watching a YouTube video, at the same time as, so I was doing all of this at once, 3 things at once, as well as grinding in the game. It's amazing. It's like, I could do this, That's kind of why I'm going to miss this game, especially because it's like, it's the perfect grinding game. And I know grinding has this negative connotation to it, but this game made grinding fun, or it made it at least, it's rewarding, in a sense. Grinding should be rewarding, and that was the whole idea of grinding. I actually saw this, in, I think it was maybe the Clan of the Grey Wolf, like, documentary about, the first Dragon Quest games. That was the whole point of why it was so tedious and grind heavy in those first games, is because there's this belief in Japan, it's a Japanese belief that like hard work should be rewarded or something to that effect, and this is what the game designers were thinking when they implemented this grinding into the system. And that's also the thing that I really like about this game. It is it has the essence of the old Dragon Quest games in there with all of the grinding, and the games have always been grind heavy, but in a fun way, They've always made grinding fun in the Dragon Quest games, and in the first few Dragon Quest games especially were very grind heavy because they were old games, but this has that old school feel of one of those grindy old school RPGs, and so it takes me back to those kind of games. Like, even these games were, this one was, but even like Dragon Quest Monsters 2 wasn't as grindy as this game is, but it's not a bad thing. When most times when I would say that would be a bad thing, but that's what I really appreciate about the game, is it brings that old school element back. Now, it's not as tedious as like the NES versions of grinding, because it's made grinding fun and enjoyable, and you're always looking forward to that level up, so then you can get more skill points and put them into your skills so you can get that next move, and customize your guy even more, or get like a better dude or whatever. It's just, it's fucking awesome is what it is. It's kind of the perfect Dragon Quest experience for a spin-off game, especially. I mean, it takes all the best elements of like Pokemon and Dragon Quest and really puts them into one, and in Persona a little bit with the fusing system and all that. So I just thought that was really cool. Sorry, I keep reading from this just so I keep remembering things. Yeah, here I am talking about the Pokemon and the Persona system. Yeah, lack of trainers and all that. Yeah, okay. The focus on the core systems and building the best monster teams pushes the simplicity while retaining the complexities of the old games in a more polished experience. So it's just, like I was saying, it's a more polished version of this old grinding system from the old games, but with a much more fun aspect to it, because it's actually fairly customizable, which is like fucking new for a Dragon Quest game. Like, even Dragon Quest 8 and stuff like didn't. Dragon Quest 11 had that with its like skill tree or whatever, but Dragon Quest 8 didn't even have that much. I mean, you could put your skills into different things, but typically you were just putting your skill into the same thing and leveling that up like a lot. And you do that a lot in this game too, where you just kind of put the skill into the same things. You want to level that up far, but like, I don't know, it's on par with like those skill point systems from those games. Like, and Dragon Quest 8 wasn't even that old, I think, at this point. I'm pretty sure it would. Okay, I gotta make sure. When the fuck did this game come out? I don't want to be like singing its praises, thinking it was like 2006 or something. Yeah, 2006, 2007. So I mean, sounds about right to me. So it's just impressive for that time that this could be on a portable fucking experience. You know, and the DS, which isn't even that powerful of a system. This is like N64 level graphics. Like, if this game had come out on the N64, I would have fucking like, boom! My mind would have been fucking blown, man. Like, seriously, this would have been incredible for the N64. Dragon Quest Monsters for the N64. Whenever people start making N64 homebrew games, I want this. Please. Please. Alright, anyway. It's so off track. But anyway, yeah, so that's what I really appreciate about the game. There's just so many great things to it. And fusing those better monsters, and since they're iconic monsters from the Dragon Quest series, it's always more, it's always fun to kind of keep it going. Did I lose my cart there? Oh, it's behind here. I was like, okay, I don't want to lose that, because I have that displayed most of the time. Anyway, to keep, what was I saying? Oh yeah, to get these monsters from the old games, and to keep getting the better monsters, and just keep building, and you're like, okay, well, what's going to be the next tier of monster? Like, what's going to be in that tier? You know, like, to keep guessing even, like, what monsters could be better than the ones you already have, and this and that, and it's just, it's crazy. It's cool. It's like, they even added, I think, a few new ones. Like, some of these monsters I don't remember in any other Dragon Quest games. It's like, it's pretty crazy, you know? I guess, so like, okay, so like, gameplay-wise, like, it's really good. Like, there's a lot of nuance, and there's a lot of depth to the gameplay, especially for a fucking portable experience. And that's the nice thing, like I was saying earlier, they have it to where it can also be a portable experience, to where you can get in and out quick, but also if you want to sit there and grind and actually make a session out of it, you can do that. It's the perfect all-around experience. This is like a Switch game before the fucking Nintendo Switch. It's ahead of its time. It's a masterpiece. I don't know. It's pretty good though. I would say maybe it's a masterpiece. I don't know. It's really good though. But thing is, so then there's the story stuff, right? I was saying they kind of sideline the story stuff or whatever. It's nothing super in depth, but you're helping this Incarnus like get through his thing and get to these places, and he keeps evolving while you go. So like one time he's a bear, and one time he's like I don't know, like a lion or something. And one time he's a bird. I remember that one. He's a monkey one time. I don't fucking know. It's ridiculous. But he ends up just being this giant dog at the end. So, but it's still pretty cool. And actually, it's cool how in each dungeon... Sorry, that's sidelined from the story for a second. It's cool how in each dungeon, once you've beaten the boss at the end of the dungeon, not only do you get the story element thing, but you also get a new spell for not your monsters, but your character. Your character has the spells like Zoom and Evac and those kind of things, and the Whistle spell, and there's a Vanish spell, so like enemies won't run into you and that kind of thing. And they don't have MP, so you can just cast these at any time, and you'll go back to the most recent point, or you'll go back to the entrance of the dungeon. There's like these stations, like almost like Pokemon centers, if you want to think about it like that. Where you can buy gear. You can get gear in this game too, where you can equip them to your guy. It's basically just a really basic gear system. You have like a weapon, basically. That's about it. It's just a weapon, really. But there's a station for that. You can deposit all your gold so it doesn't get taken off, because you know it's typical Dragon Quest fashion. If you die, you lose half of your gold, and you're back to the last checkpoint, like one of those Pokemon Center sort of things. But they also have little kiosks on certain islands, like the last island, where if you die, you actually would go back to the previous island, because there's no Pokemon Center or whatever on that island, Monster Center, whatever you want to call them, on that island. There's just a little kiosk where you can basically heal and stuff. And those Monster Centers are also the only place you can save, so you have to go there to save, like make a hard save. There's a quick save system in the game, which is pretty good. You know, okay, so I will say the one other thing that I would have liked is, much like Pokemon, because I know in the Pokemon they have this, where you can shut off the animations, and you can, so when you're grinding it would go faster or whatever. That would have been pretty helpful. So that's just another, like, minor thing that would have, like, really improved the game, if I could speed up the text and also do that, you know, where speed up the animations, or just cut out the animations until I get to like a really important battle kind of thing. But there weren't really that many options in the game, so something to improve upon for the sequel, hopefully. Um, so yeah, that's pretty cool. Um, what else? I was talking about the story. So yeah, it's basic story. Like the your protagonist kid is just like um, he's in the scouting thing to help this art incarnate that he meets like partway along the way, and then he's got like his rival Misty girl, you know, Tsundere type girl or whatever. Her name's Solitaire, which is because Joker and aces and stuff. Like I don't know. There's all sorts of card references in here and whatever. So that's interesting. Um, so yeah, but like near the end, they actually start getting to like this like dark world storyline. I thought you would actually like go into the dark world, but you don't really do at all. This is like half of this island that you like see earlier in the game or whatever that ends up becoming like the final area or whatever. So it's like an area. It's like half of the island that you can't really get to or whatever, and you're just like, oh, I guess maybe I'll come back there later or something, and then yeah, you come back there at the end of the game. Um, so that's cool. But yeah, other than that, it's just kind of them studying this and studying the Incarnus or whatever, and there's kind of like a twist villain or whatever. It's like not the most in-depth story, but it's pretty cool. It gets a little dark and stuff, not like super dark or anything, but it's like kind of a little bit dark and whatever. It's well enough, and I personally liked like all of the bosses really, but like especially the final boss was like really cool and definitely challenging. This game is fucking really challenging if you're not in for the grind, then like I don't know, man, like you just got to get good or I don't know how you're gonna get through, but I think you got to be in for the grind for this one. But and I know that sounds bad to a lot of people, but like I don't know, maybe this just isn't your game then, you know. But like I think that's a cool thing, especially for a portable experience, especially if you're looking for a game where you just need to sit down for a few minutes or you need to multitask with it. That's what I like about it, is I can multitask with it when I'm just not feeling like thinking that much, you know, kind of thing. Oh, another cool thing was late in the game, my big serpent dude Lodo, he has this ability where he restores MP after every turn or whatever, which is awesome. But it ended up being he only had like mid heal, so after every battle I could mid heal everyone. Like, you know, you mid heal multiple times to get everyone like back to full health basically. And by one turn in a battle, he would already have regained all of that MP back. Like, it's amazing. Like, it's crazy. So I like basically had infinite MP on that guy. Not really, but sort of, you know, in a sense, which is really cool. Um, so I don't know. That's neat. Um, but yeah, the story carries you along, but it's not intrusive, and that's what I like about it. Um, for sure. So yeah, I think that's basically what I've got to say about the game. I hope I've said everything, because I really enjoy this game, and I think it is it's very underrated for the DS there. I don't hear anybody ever talking about this one. Even in the Dragon Quest community, I mean, I'm on like a Dragon Quest page on Facebook and stuff. Nobody's ever talked about Dragon Quest Monsters Joker. If anything, the one that I hear about is the fucking first one, which pisses me off because that's the worst of all of them so far. This is my favorite out of them. But at the end of the day, I want to say that of the two, gameplay-wise, in terms of the more complex systems and whatnot, I really love this one for its simplicity and the much simpler system, and it really reminds me a lot of Pokemon, you know, the Game Boy ones, Red and Gold and Silver and all that. But this is the more, you know, like in-depth game. You know, this is the natural evolution to these games, and it's something that I really appreciate about this game, is that it feels like the old games while also having its own distinctive style, And also feeling like older Dragon Quest games that aren't in the Monsters series. And also, I guess in a way, the monsters are almost fan service to the older games. Kind of like how in Dragon Quest Heroes, they have a lot of the older characters from the older games, and that's the fan service. But in this game, the monsters are sort of the fan service in a sense. If you really think about it, even though they're the enemies and whatnot, and they have them in all of the games, this time around you get to, those are your characters. You get to use those monsters, which is the cool thing. So, yeah. So in terms of a more full and well-rounded gameplay experience, I think this is the better game. This game definitely has a lot more elements of like story and a lot of intrigue there with the characters and whatnot. They're not like super in-depth characters or anything, but there's a definitely more of an emphasis on story in that game. But I think that there's also a certain beauty to not really caring as much about the story. Not that it wasn't a good story in this game, but but just really focusing on the game and making that the standout element. You know, was cool, I would say. And so all the gameplay is really good. You know, you have the fusing system is really solid. Outside of, you know, a few minor things, like it would have little quality of life improvements might have been nice, like just like, and they definitely made some from this fusing and breeding system. Even this game, the good one, had kind of an obtuse breeding system. You know, it wasn't the best. I barely ever used it. I would always just recruit monsters and whatever. So I like that. I like that this game finally got that system right with a fusion system, which I think is a lot better than a breeding system, in my opinion. So, yeah. So I like that it finally kind of got that right. It got the gameplay right. It made grinding interesting because of its skill point system, which this game did not have. So, you know, that's a really big addition to this game after it was the Dragon Quest VIII edition to this game. And also the overworld monsters is so innovative. So the aesthetic thing of it, how many times can you actually say that the aesthetics and the graphics innovated, you know? Like that's not a thing you can say a lot of the time. Like, oh yeah, graphics were pretty good, or the aesthetic was neat, or it was atmospheric or whatever. You say that about all the modern games. No, this game actually like fucking innovated a gameplay thing with its aesthetic. Actually, there's also I just want to say this too. Persona 4 was not out yet. Did they do that in 3? I don't remember, but there's also kind of a system where if you sneak up on an enemy from behind, or if they sneak up on you, they'll get the turn or you'll get the turn. And to be fair, Earthbound did that first, kind of thing. But like, holy shit, like that was in this game too. So that's a pretty big innovation. I mean, Persona 4 didn't even come out until the next year, so, and that was the PS2 version, if anything. So, but yeah, so that's pretty cool. I didn't even think of that one, but just seeing the monsters on the overworld is really cool. Just the overworld itself is just really well designed aesthetically. The music's all really good because it's a lot of the same tracks from Dragon Quest Monsters 2 and 1 there, and they've kind of made them updated and orchestral and stuff. And just the gameplay elements of the skill tree system, the skill point system, and the fact that you can carry those skill sets over to new guys, and that's all part of the fusion system, I know, but it's like, that's really cool. And I hope that they kind of do more similar stuff with that in the next Dragon Quest Monsters 2, which I'm really looking forward to playing now, because Dragon Quest Monsters 1 was really, really good, you know? So, yeah, just overall, it's a great game, and I definitely recommend it. It's a little old school, you know, it's pretty challenging at the end of the day, but nothing a good grind won't get you to. Like I saw one of the walkthroughs I was watching, the guy like made it through with like some low tier monsters, but I think that's because he had fused high tier monsters into low tier monsters, which is just funny to me in a sense, because he had like this cure slime, or angel slime is what it was, that had the king slime thing, the cleric ability. The angel slime's not supposed to be able to have that, as far as my walkthrough showed. There's so much to this game and the systems and like what can learn what and whatever, that like I just barely scratched the surface on all of that. Like, getting into all of the mechanics and the systems is just like crazy. There's so much there to dive into and figure out like this and that and just experiment with, which is awesome. So anyway, all of that's great. Everything about the game is great. There's a few minor things like I mentioned with the trainers, and you know, if they could put some more of those out just to kind of help with the grinding and this and that. But I get it, because it was probably a limitation of the system, because they put all of this other really impressive stuff in there. They didn't have the space or the resources to put in these trainer battles as often, and they only kind of show up randomly when they did show up on the first few islands. So there's that. But yeah, I really like this game. I think it's a great game. I'm gonna give it a 9.3 out of 10 because yeah, it's just a really, really, really well done and fantastic game, and I can now appreciate the subtlety. The subtlety's not no okay. The subtlety and the perfection of the formulas that were from the old Dragon Quest games, which I didn't recognize in this game, and especially for the Monsters game. The improvements and everything that this game does in the fusion system, which I didn't really understand back in the day, and I still only understand probably the basics of it. The fusion system is something that I really appreciate, that gives the game more depth. I understand what's so great about this game now, which is what I didn't understand, you know, like 10 years ago when I originally played it back in the day. I was just looking for another Dragon Quest game back then, and I don't even think I had played them all at that point, so I definitely hadn't played them all at that point. But yeah, so I really think that it's just a really underrated and definitely a great game overall, Dragon Quest Monsters Joker. So really looking forward to the sequel. I'm glad I got to talk about the Monsters games again, because it's just such a great side series to the Dragon Quest games, you know? The Dragon Quest has some of the best side series, man. The Heroes games, and I know the Builders games are supposed to be really good. I definitely want to get to that at some point. The Swords series was cool. I know that Hero Rocket Slime is supposed to be pretty good, and there's really not that many bad Dragon Quest games, you know? The Torneko series is supposed to be pretty cool, the Mystery Dungeon sort of stuff. The only like bad Dragon Quest game that I know of is like 6 and maybe 9, because like 9 is like you have to play it with people to get the full thing out of it or whatever. I'm still gonna play it at some point, but you know, I really don't like 6. I think it's pretty much the worst Dragon Quest game that I've played so far. But other than that, they're all really good, you know? Like, some of them are better than others, of course, but like, even 7, even with all of its grinding, and 7 kind of did grinding in the wrong way. Of course, that was PS1, so it's a little bit different. But I assume that in the remake, they'll have fixed that for 7. I definitely want to play that at some point, too. But, yeah, none of them are really that bad. Like, that's the thing. Dragon Quest is such a great series with a rich history of games that are pretty much good whichever one you play, you know? Of course, there's the best ones, like 8 and 11 and 5, of course, but and even 1, I would say is a really amazing game if you play the later ones that aren't the NES release. And I'm really partial to the first 3 Dragon Quest games, honestly, but yeah, really, really great games. I mean, all of them are great, you know, so I know I've just listed like every Dragon Quest game. 4 is good as well. But yeah. So I don't know. That's all I have to say about the game, because Dragon Quest Monsters Joker is a really good game, and I'm glad I got to finally play it. I just kind of did it on a whim. Like, I'm like, oh, this will be like my grind game, because I remember there being a lot of grinding, and I'm gonna miss it as my grind game, because this is a great game. So I definitely recommend playing it. This has been JZNES saying keep it classic. Stick around for more reviews, underrated games, and I'll see you guys in the next one. JZ